I'd like to welcome the first of our speakers who have been so generous as to share their experience with us, Eileen and Julie.
I'm nervous at this. It's just to say that I found the mindfulness course by accident. I happened to walk past a shop after I'd just lost my husband suddenly, and I had completely was on my own, I felt, completely destroyed. And I went in there, and the welcomeness that I got, and then gradually go into the classes, have literally just changed my life, because I'd gone from living as a teenager with my parents to marrying and then suddenly losing my husband after 50 odd years. And I'd never ever been on my own, ever. And I just didn't want to be here anymore. And I went on to the first retreat, and I really haven't looked back, and they're just another family. And it's really made a difference. And I wouldn't be here without them. So, yeah. That will do it.
My woman's daughter, like my mum said, my dad passed away very suddenly. He was a very ill man, he had dementia. Around the time that Dad had his dementia, I was actually looking after him, and at the time, my mum was looking after my nan, who was very poorly as well. Sadly, Dad passed away in my arms. It was very traumatic, something that I'll never forget. And it was one of those things that I needed to get a grip of. And at the time, Mum had suggested to me to go in meditation. And I knew if I didn't go in meditation, I was going to lose it. And it was meditation that's brought me back and has made me the person I am today. And without Dad and my mum, I don't know where I'd be. But meditation is absolutely amazing, and it's completely brought me back down to earth and has made me so calm and grounded, and it's made me open to a whole different world. And without Dav and Pushy, I don't know where I'd be, but you know, I live for my mum because I need to make sure that she's okay. But meditation has really opened my eyes and brought a different light into my life. So thank you to Dav, and thank you to Pushy for being there for me and continuing to be that support as well, because without them, I don't know where I'd be. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Eileen and to Julie. I'd like to introduce our next generous speaker, Izzy.
Hi everyone, my name is Izzy, and I'd just like to share with you my experience of mindfulness and how it's helped to transform my life. Almost exactly a year ago, almost exactly a year ago, I wasn't feeling very well. I was feeling very low and had the symptoms of depression. I wasn't sleeping, had no appetite, and had anxiety, which was giving me terrible chest pains. I practiced yoga at the time, and so I knew about meditation. I was listening to a talk one day online about mindfulness for mental illness, and it was saying about the importance of finding a good teacher. So I set about doing just that. By fate, I ended up meeting Pushy at the Flame. I got in touch with Dav, and I began learning mindfulness. I started by doing a daily body scan. This involved focusing on different areas of the body and the sensations which could be felt there. This practice made me come out of my head and into reality. All of the symptoms I was dealing with came from negative thoughts creating negative emotions. My practice moved on to mindfulness. This involves sitting quietly and observing my breath. In months to come, the breath was to become my anchor. Watching the breath and feeling the sensations of it moving in and out helped quieten the mind. No matter what life threw at me, I could always come back to my breath. The breath will tell you an awful lot about how you are feeling in the moment. When you are anxious, it may be fast and shallow. Relaxed, it may be deep and smooth. It's impossible to be fully aware of the breath and think at the same time. At the beginning, practicing mindfulness was a challenge. My mind did not want to stop thinking. The mind loves the drama and the stories. But over time, it settled down, and by focusing on my breath, when thoughts did come, I was able to observe them, and I learned that they weren't real, that they are not permanent, and the less attention you give them, the less powerful they will be. Over time, my practice became an enjoyable experience. As well as my meditation practice, I use some exercises to challenge my current way of thinking. For a few weeks, I would focus on all the positive aspects of my life. Another time on the things which gave me joy. In doing this, I changed my perspective and I felt a lot happier. I also worked on patience, acceptance, and contentment. Practicing patience helped me to be content with what was happening in my life at the moment. I stopped wanting things to be different and accepted the way that they were. Mindfulness is learning to be fully present in the moment. In doing this, my anxiety and my depression went away. My anxiety was coming from worrying about the future and depression about the past. My practice brought me right back into the moment and to be aware of only what is happening right now. A fundamental aspect of mindfulness is self-compassion. I don't know about you, but I had a tendency of giving myself a very hard time. In paying attention to my thoughts, I noticed I didn't speak to myself very nicely at all. I was constantly criticising, having a go. It was no wonder I felt so bad. So I began to develop a healthy relationship with myself, only speaking kindly, and I learned to really care and love myself. Mindfulness helps with how you engage with life, with your family and friends. You learn to appreciate all the moments you have with your loved ones and you stay present with them. It helps with strangers too. There is less separation, and you realise we're all going through life's joys and struggles together. Likewise, it helps with work. It helps you to stay focused and to concentrate fully on the task in hand. It helps you to relax and switch off. We can get so busy with life, with thoughts of what we did yesterday and what we need to do for tomorrow, that taking a few minutes out each day to check in, ask yourself how you are, what's happening now is really important. Mindfulness doesn't always have to be a sitting practice. You can be present at any time. While you're walking the dog, you can notice the surroundings, how the wind feels on your face. You can be present making a cup of tea or in the shower. You can practice on your own, go to classes and retreats. Mindfulness has really had an incredible effect on my life. My thoughts don't trouble me anymore, and I feel a deep inner peace. I encourage anyone who feels that they could benefit from this practice to get involved and join us at the Flame for the classes, courses and retreats. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Izzy. If I could welcome up our next speaker, Ruth.
Can you hear me? My name's Ruth, and I'd like to share my experience with you as well.
Ruth, you need to get closer.
I'd like to share my personal experience of mindfulness meditation and self-compassion and what it means to me. I've always had an interest in holistic therapies for as long as I can remember. I have over the years on and off dabbled and bought self-help books, but that was as far as I got. I, like many of us here tonight, I'm sure, have had times during our life that have been stressful, suffered low moods, grief and depression as a direct result of circumstances which have happened to us. I had my own coping mechanism, and of course, once the situation improved, I improved too, but not without a lot of suffering. There were two particular circumstances that I found myself in over recent times that accumulated in my seeking out meditation. I was going through a particularly prolonged, stressful time at work, which wasn't getting any easier, and which was having an adverse impact on my physical and mental health. I had also been struggling to come to terms with a family situation, which had divided the family. I was unable to get over the hurt that it had caused myself, my husband and my children, and I was also unable to forgive the people responsible for causing the situation. Over a period of almost 5 years, I constantly relived in my mind the events that took place. Forgive me. The events that took place, the hurt that they caused, and hoping that we as a family would receive an apology, when in my mind that would be the time that I would be able to forgive. I have yet to receive that apology. Around December last year, I'd been to the doctors and I was walking back to work through the city arcade. I hadn't been that way for quite a long time, and fortuitously I happened to walk past the flame. I think a lot of people come across the flame the way I did. I popped in just to have a look around because the window looked very interesting, and I just got chatting to a young lady who was minding the shop at the time, and she just happened to mention that they do yoga and meditation classes. I was quite overwhelmed at that, as I thought it was a coincidence, as I was just thinking on my way to the shop that I needed to find something to help me through my current situation. I did my first meditation 2 weeks later. I was very stressed when I got there. I sat down and Dav, who was holding the class, chatted to us for about half an hour. And I remember thinking, I wished he'd just get on with the meditation because I just want to de-stress and not chat. It didn't take me long to realise after 2 or 3 more visits quite how beneficial those little chats at the beginning of the meeting were to me, and I'm sure to other people in the group. I continued with the weekly classes and always felt de-stressed afterwards, and I often returned home feeling on top of the world, almost excitable sometimes, much to the delight of my husband and daughter. But I didn't really do any meditation at home. I wasn't quite sure how to do it when not in a group meditation situation, and I still felt stressed between classes. Unfortunately, in January, my stress levels got the better of me, causing lots of unpleasant physical symptoms, paranoia about my health, and one evening I had a mental and physical meltdown which resulted in me being signed off work for a few months. This was the point when I finally really got into the meditation, and I embarked on an 8-week course which was instrumental in getting me well. I learned how our thoughts directly affect our physical and mental health, and through meditation and mindfulness, I learned techniques to deal with intrusive thoughts, and these helped me to overcome my panic attacks, which I now refer to as unpleasant feelings. I practiced different types of meditation, starting off with a body scan meditation, and I also learnt mindfulness, both of which have enriched my life. I personally prefer to do mini meditations and often take myself off, particularly at work, for a minute or two and concentrate on my breath and return to my desk feeling more in control. I love spending time in our lovely garden, and for me this is where I prefer to meditate. I have been known once when I couldn't sleep to meditate in the garden at 5 a.m. I also attended a retreat in Shropshire recently. It was a weekend retreat which was wonderful. It was a wonderful experience, and it took me to another level of understanding meditation and mindfulness. And at that weekend, I discovered self-compassion. To conclude, I would like to share how mindfulness and meditation helps me on a day-to-day basis. Being mindful and meditating has a huge impact on my mental and physical self. I now have self-compassion, and as a result, I'm more compassionate towards others. I don't dwell on the past so much. If I feel stressed, I take myself off and do a mini meditation. I appreciate life so much more and feel I can deal with whatever is to come my way. I am looking forward to enriching my life further, and the next step for me is forgiveness. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ruth. And if I could introduce our fourth and final speaker, Ollie.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to start by introducing myself. My name is Oliver. I'm a student nurse at Coventry University, and I'm currently training to become a nurse. Just like the people before me, I'm going to go over my own interpretation of mindfulness and the impact that it's had upon my life. I first discovered this about 2 years ago through a very close friend of mine. Admittedly, I haven't been practicing the whole time, as my interest in it had wavered, as I became very content with everything going on in my life, and I just didn't feel like I had the time for it anymore. Funnily enough, I caught up with my friend who introduced me to all this whilst I was at home for summer, and we updated each other on everything we'd been up to, as we always do, and he said the same thing. It seemed that when everything was going well and in the right direction, there was just no need for mindfulness anymore. I think everyone can appreciate the fact that life has its ups and downs, but it's how you deal with these periods that define you. Before, when things seemed to go wrong in my life, I would just push myself deeper into other areas, averting my attention from the real issue. I would constantly be beating myself up over things that I realise now, through mindfulness, that I had and still have no control over. Everyone has a choice when it comes to how they feel, but not everyone is aware of the implications of their own thoughts. We are the creators of our own emotions, so whatever you sow, so you shall reap. How often is it you actually stop and check what sensations are in and around your body and how you're actually feeling in yourself? Mindfulness is simply that. It differs from standard meditation as the primary focus is on you and your current physical state, so it's all about you. I only got back into this a few months by chance. It was something that I'd been meaning to get back into, but I just felt as if I had too many commitments. It wasn't until I wandered into the Flame one day to have a look around at some of their wares that I found out about the mindfulness sessions they were running upstairs. I really thought this was brilliant. The most pivotal moment for me, though, came on the walk home after the second meditation I'd attended at the Flame. I had a revelation, something seemed to just click, and I finally became aware of what I'd actually been doing to myself all this time. I didn't even realise until that moment that I'd become so immersed in my own problems and emotions that I'd actually gone about reinforcing this massive identity of negativity within myself. I just didn't really feel as if I could relate to anyone until this moment. I'd got to the point where my head was so busy replaying the past that I truly felt as if I was the only one in the world with any real problems, and I just couldn't focus on anything else. Looking back now, I find it almost silly that I was so ignorant of the way I was making myself feel, but these things have to happen in order for us to grow. As for me, it provided the biggest learning curve I've embarked on in my life so far, learning about myself, giving myself time and rewarding myself for my efforts in every area of life. If I knew back then that each time I brought up these uncomfortable memories into my head and averted them, I'd simply be making myself feel worse, I'd have laughed at how seriously I was taking myself. What's key to me now, through mindfulness, is that you have thoughts and emotions, but they are not you, and they certainly do not define you. Everyone has inner conflict. Some people have it more so than others, but you just have to come to terms with things the way they are, and if they don't change, that's okay. Something Dav said to me and a few of us on a retreat seemed to really connect with me when I look back at how I made myself feel. Rather than colouring the future with the crayons of the past, be present and take a clear understanding of what you want to do next. It's just a simple outlook on everything. Mindfulness for me is just a true acceptance of things the way they are. I no longer crave for things to be different, I now just accept them for how they are. As soon as you start doing this, you can start focusing your energy into something you can change and have an impact upon. I can now recognise some unhealthy states of mind within myself, and see when my threat response system is coming into play. When this does happen, 99% of the time, there's no real problem around. It's completely natural, and it's just your body's natural defense system. Once you start accepting yourself, you can start being compassionate with others. So the career path that I've embarked upon isn't one that you can take lightly. Nurses now have more responsibility than they've ever had. Every time you go into work and you're not wholly concentrating on even one of your patients and taking in everything they're saying, you could be missing out on something vital. It could be something that ordinarily might not be significant, but for them it could possibly be a game changer and greatly improve the quality of their life. That was clearly a very small element of nursing as a whole, but it doesn't make it any less important. No matter what occupation you are within, life is getting busier and busier. People are having more and more work laid upon them, and with life getting busier, people have to grow and develop new coping mechanisms. It's not going to slow down anytime soon, and people are just expected to become accustomed to new workloads and tasks. And if you want to keep up, this might just be for you. For me now, mindfulness is all about the moment that I open my eyes and everything is just brighter. It has allowed me to actually see how I treat myself and the effects that the criticisms and demands that I place upon myself have. I'm far kinder to myself now than I have ever been, which means in turn, I'm becoming kinder to others. I've always had this image of myself as a fairly laid-back individual, but now I can actually elicit that comment with some truth. I'm simply going with the flow, and it's brilliant.